So we have a number of things to dive into when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks. And from Thomas Drance over to the folks over on Daily Faceoff. By the way, yeah, that's Logan Couture on the broadcast. We do have some extra updates in regards to the Vancouver Canucks and their GM search. I've said before, I do think it's kind of boring just acknowledging all the names and the candidates and the interviews and whatever, but it is technically the most important thing going on with this hockey team right now. And heading into next week's draft lottery, this is going to be something we have to pay attention to. So, let's start things out by looking at what Daily Faceoff spoke about on their DFO Rundown show with special guest Logan Couture yesterday. This was summarized by Vancouver Canucks News Summary, so again, big shout out over to them for doing the work that they do. There are some updates on the Toronto Maple Leafs and what's going on, courtesy of David Pagnotta. And then there are some updates on the Vancouver Canucks, courtesy of Irfan Ghaffar. Take a look at this. Irf believes that Shane Doan will be a part of the management team in Vancouver. Candidates are being told they are out, and others are being told that they will be coming in for an in-person interview. The Canucks are not in a rush to complete this before the draft lottery, and they want someone with experience that can be as a former GM or just in an NHL front office. So that's a pretty interesting way to view the situation at the moment. Shane Doan, Josh Doan's dad, and of course, a former NHL Arizona Coyotes legend in his own right. This guy's very well respected in NHL circles. He's a smart dude. He has connections to BC because he owns the Kamloops Blazers. And there happens to be a very positive opinion about Mr. Shane Doan himself potentially fulfilling a new, let's just say, Trevor Linden-esque role within the Canucks management picture. Shane Doan definitely has been in the conversation the past little while, and with Irfan Ghaffar believing that Doan is going to be on the team, that's quite the update, isn't it? Next up, Evan Gold, Boston Bruins assistant GM, is an interesting name with mutual interest between him and the Canucks. Irf is also not entirely sure how far the interviews went with Patrick Burke, so Brian Burke's son, or if he will be a part of the front office moving forward. Furthermore, David Pagnotta speaks out on the Vancouver Canucks too. He is curious about Jamie Langenbrother. Yeah, we're talking about all these old Arizona, or I should say Phoenix Coyotes, man. Shane Doan, Ray Whitney, Langenbrunner. Who's next? Radim Verbata? Who knows, man? Pagnotta says those in Toronto wondered if Brad Treliving would be a candidate for the Vancouver Canucks. He thinks there was some interest, but he is not a candidate. So, okay. I would personally not want Brad Treliving to be a Vancouver Canucks general manager, but that's what it is, I guess. Furthermore to this, we had Thomas Drance posting an article yesterday about the Canucks GM search. The funny part is, this is on The Athletic, and The Athletic, of course, is paid for material, so if you wanted to go out there and read it yourself, it's all available on NewYorkTimes.com. And, actually, I can scroll through. Shared with me by an Athletic subscriber. Thomas Drance himself went out there and gave this one to us for free. That's the tweet link that he has on his post right here. It's a gift article, as indicated by the top right-hand corner of the image. Okay, thank you, Thomas Drance, for providing us the scoop for free. That is awesome here. Now, you know what, let's do it in the same way that we have been doing it, because I feel kind of weird actually reading an Athletic article while signed out. There was a person in the replies that asked Grok to summarize the key important aspects of this piece, and that's exactly what Grok ended up doing. I didn't know that you could do this, and you could technically do this with articles that are behind a paywall as well, but Grok goes out there and gives us the rundown as to what's going down. Here are the key aspects from the Athletic article on the Canucks GM search. Number 1, preliminary video interviews have been done with about 15 to 20 candidates by Jim Rutherford plus a panel, which features ownership, business people within the Vancouver Canucks, so that obviously is pretty interesting. The process is now possibly entering the second phase of in-person interviews. Some candidates already have been told that they won't advance. Confirmed first-round interviews include Brett Peterson, Florida's assistant GM, Patrick Burke, NHL Department of Player Safety, Evan Gold, the Boston assistant GM, and Shane Doan out of the Toronto front office. There is a heavy focus on candidates with upper-level NHL decision-making experience, and talks covered the team state, Foot and the coaching staff, the rebuild timeline, and turnaround plans. The search has been described as more deliberate than past Canucks hires. So with that in mind, it does seem like Jim Rutherford is putting in more work than what was put in when Rutherford was initially hired. If I'm being honest, the way Jim Rutherford hired Patrick Allvin, or maybe the way Patrick Allvin got brought onto the ship in Vancouver, it seemed very quick, and it seemed more so as if Jim was just bringing on his guy from Pittsburgh, rather than actually conducting a thorough interview process. Rutherford, for what it's worth, it doesn't seem like the guy has gone through a significant interview carousel like we are seeing with this right here in the Vancouver Canucks position he has got. I know he ended up hiring Tocchet, but it seemed like Tocchet was just his guy. He wanted Tocchet the entire time. Same thing with Allvin. It's like, they're bringing on the guys that they just want to have, rather than circling through and talking to a number of different people, 15 to 20 candidates so far, before entering the second phase of interviews. I mean, if we go over to the article and just read, a lot of this stuff does check out. A league source involved in the process but granted anonymity as they are not authorized to speak publicly about the Canucks GM search told The Athletic that some candidates have begun to be informed they won't be moving forward to the second phase, which matches the reporting on Wednesday from Rick Dhaliwal. A team source, however, declined to confirm whether or not Vancouver has reached the shortlist portion of the interview process, which, as The Athletic reported on Monday, was anticipated to occur in the middle of this week. On Wednesday morning, Elliot Friedman reported that Patrick Burke could potentially get in there. Irfan Gaffar added some more names, and Evan Gold. There is some industry buzz, which was corroborated by a league source and was touched on by Dhaliwal, that Toronto Maple Leafs front office hand Shane Doan has impressed Canucks ownership and decision-makers who are part of this hiring process. Doan didn't hold an assistant GM's title with the Maple Leafs, but was widely viewed as Treliving's right-hand man over the past 3 years. This time around, it seems the club is intent on discussing the sordid state they're in and soliciting input on everything from the future of Adam Foote and his coaching staff, the length that this rebuild should take, and Vancouver's options in returning the organization to prominence and competitiveness. It's welcome, even though it's long overdue. Man, I'm kind of getting a little bit interested now, not gonna lie. I was always thinking that this GM search was going to be boring, but seeing what's going on now and seeing the thoroughness that seems to be applied to the way they're hiring guys and interviewing guys, that's a pretty big breath of fresh air. So, with that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the latest Canucks news? Irfan Gaffar believes that Doan will be a part of the management team in some capacity, whether that is as the GM or otherwise. Let me know your thoughts as to whether or not you're comfortable with the way things are being reported at the moment, and which names you think stand out the most. Patrick Burke, Evan Gould, Shane Doan, Jamie Langen, brother, potentially. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.